All right, let's jump right in. We usually think of healthcare as this, well, one-way street, right? A caregiver helps a patient, end of story. But what if the path to recovery for both of them is actually connected by one single really powerful idea? Today, we're going to look at the two sides of the stethoscope and how this simple active exercise can be a remedy for both the person in the bed and the person standing right next to it. This quote, it really gets to the heart of what a patient is going through. When you're stuck in a bed, movement isn't some luxury. It's a lifeline. It's a physical thing, sure, but it's also about feeling human, feeling independent, and holding on to that hope that you're going to get better. And right there, that's the pivot. Because that hope, that whole journey back to being healthy, it takes a ton of physical effort from the caregiver. The weight of patient care is something nurses literally carry on their shoulders every single day.
So let's really dig into what that burden actually looks like. We're talking about a level of physical and mental stress that has turned into a massive full-blown crisis in nursing.
The official term for this is job burnout. And just to be clear, this is so much more than just having a tough week. This is when your physical and mental batteries are just completely drained, leaving you with nothing left to give.
And here's where it gets really eye-opening.
Just look at the scale of this. This is not a local problem. We're seeing absolutely staggering rates of burnout all across the globe. I mean, Japan, over half their nurses. In China, it's pushing 50%. This is a systemic issue, and it's threatening healthcare for all of us. And that problem? It gets even scarier when you see this number. The World Health Organization estimates we're going to need 9 million new nurses by 2030. Think about that. How are we supposed to bring new people into a field where so many are already burning out? It's a really vicious cycle. So you have to ask, where does all this burnout come from? Well, a huge piece of the puzzle is the sheer physical grind of the job. It's just constant lifting, moving, bending, and standing. It's no surprise it leads to one of the highest rates of work-related low back pain of any profession out there. Okay, so now let's flip this around and look at the other side of that stethoscope. While the nurse is in this state of constant, demanding motion, the patient is dealing with the total opposite problem, the very real danger of not moving at all. It's kind of a weird paradox, right? You go to a hospital to get better, but the very act of being stuck in a bed can actually make you sicker. Being immobile isn't just a neutral state of rest, it actively works against you getting better. And the risks are really serious, sometimes even life-threatening. We're talking blood clots, pneumonia, painful pressure ulcers, not to mention your muscles just start to waste away. And all of that means you're in the hospital longer, and you're much more likely to have to come right back after you leave.
So what we have here are two problems that are totally connected, right? The nurse's body is breaking down from too much physical stress, and the patient's body is breaking down from too little movement. And this is where we find one single, kind of elegant solution that helps both of them. Just look at this side by side. For the nurse, exercise is all about prevention. It's about preventing injuries, building the strength you need to do the job, and managing that intense stress that leads to burnout. And for the patient, it's all about restoration, getting their mobility back, stopping those nasty complications, and just getting better faster. It's the same tool, but with different goals that lead to the same result: better health for everyone.
Let's make this practical. Something as simple as a squat is, honestly, a perfect exercise for a nurse. And this isn't about hitting the gym. This is basically on-the-job training. It builds strength in your legs and core, and that's what protects your lower back every single time you have to lift a patient or move a heavy piece of equipment. Now for the patient, it's a variation on that very same move, the chair stand. It seems so simple, but being able to do this, well, that's the first step to walking on your own again, to using the bathroom by yourself, to getting your life back. It's a direct line to regaining your dignity. And of course, it's not all about raw strength. For nurses, just staying flexible is absolutely key to preventing injuries. A few simple stretches for your neck, your back, your wrists. It can make a world of difference in releasing all that tension that builds up over a long, hard shift. And in the same way, for patients who can't even stand up yet, there's a whole toolkit of gentle exercises they can do. Things like ankle pumps to prevent blood clots, or simple muscle squeezes to keep the muscles from weakening. Even marching while sitting down to get the heart pumping a little. These small moves can have a massive, massive impact. So this all sounds good, right? But does it actually work in the real world? This is where the data is just so powerful. Let's take a look at the hard evidence that shows just how effective these simple programs can be. So let's look at the proof.
The numbers show that these programs don't just feel good, they create real, measurable changes that you can see for both the nurses and their patients.
Okay, look at this right here. Before a simple training program on back safety, only about 23% of ICU nurses really understood what causes back pain. But after the program, that number shot up to 94%. That's just incredible. It shows that a simple, cheap educational session can create a huge leap in understanding. And here's the payoff. What these charts are showing us is a really simple but powerful idea. The more nurses knew about how to protect their backs, the more they actually did it. You can literally see the connection. As knowledge goes up, so does safety. In other words, knowing better really did help them do better. Now let's look at the patients. A study looked at these early mobility programs in the ICU, and they found that the average time patients had to stay in the hospital dropped from 10 days down to just 7. That's a 30% reduction. That is absolutely huge. And this chart just makes that result crystal clear. 3 fewer days in a hospital bed, that means less risk of getting an infection, lower costs, and most importantly, it means getting a patient home to their family that much sooner. And all this happened just by having nurses help their patients get moving earlier. So let's tie this all together. What's the bottom line? Exercise is not some nice-to-have extra in a hospital. It is essential. It protects nurses from getting hurt and from burning out, it helps patients get better faster, and it proves that a nurse's own health isn't separate from their patient's care. It's actually a core part of it.
And that really leaves us with one final thought to chew on. We all accept that movement is medicine for the person who is sick. But maybe it's time we recognize that for the people giving the care, that exact same medicine is just as essential for their own survival.
Let's talk about movement as medicine. Not just for patients, but for their nurses too. We think of nurses as caregivers, but their job is incredibly physical, leading to a lot of injuries. Their work is just a constant physical grind, lifting patients and spending crazy long hours on their feet. Now let's flip to the other side of the bed. For patients, not moving is a huge risk. Yeah, staying still isn't just boring. It causes serious problems that can make recovery way harder. What's really fascinating is how the physical act of caring wears down the caregivers themselves. Low back pain is a massive issue for nurses, and it's driven by the daily demands of the job. All these routine tasks just add up, putting so much strain on a nurse's body over time. Well, the answer is surprisingly simple, and it actually connects both sides of the equation. You guessed it, exercise. Let's see how specific movements can literally act like medicine. For patients, it's all about simple, guided exercises to get their mobility and independence back. The chair stand, for example, helps rebuild the essential strengths you need for everyday activities. And progressive ambulation is basically a step-by-step plan to get patients walking again safely. Okay, now for the nurses. They need their own exercises to stay strong and avoid getting hurt. Squats are a game changer. They strengthen the exact muscles nurses use when lifting patients. Even a simple wrist stretch can prevent strain from all that repetitive hands-on work. But does this stuff actually work in a crazy high-stress hospital? An ICU study found out. So first, the program dramatically improved what nurses knew. Just look at that jump in understanding. But knowing more is one thing. The real question is, does it actually change how they act? And oh yeah, it does. Compliance with safe patient handling went way up after the program. The data confirms it. The more nurses knew about safety, the safer they actually worked. This shows that these simple, low-cost programs can have a massive impact on nurse safety. The big takeaway here is that a patient's recovery and a nurse's wellness are totally connected. Seriously, when we invest in protecting nurses, we're also investing in better care for everyone. It's a powerful thought, right? The health of our frontline workers is tied to the health of us all.